Hi, welcome again to Dr. TSA Series, a spiritual discussion. I want to just remind everyone that this series is a discussion about who we are on a spiritual level, a discussion on how we heal on a spiritual level, and the beyond. Oftentimes, we forget that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And so most of my discussion will be that of and from a spiritual perspective. So I always want to preface that because sometimes we forget that. And to be able to apply a lot of the concepts and understandings of spirituality and or spiritual skills, we must have the perspective that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And so as a therapist, when I bring that into the office, as it relates to our thoughts and our feelings, which is the topic of my brief discussion today. When we have an understanding that we are a spiritual being first, operating in a physical body, then with that standpoint, we are able to fully appreciate the spiritual fight between that of our thoughts that goes on in our heads and our feelings, which is what we feel deep down inside. Individuals, people, children oftentimes say things of the nature that pertains to confusion. And confusion, when one is confused, there is an interruption in the flow of what one is feeling. Because one would feel one way, but the mind, the cognition, the thoughts would flood this space between our two ears, would flood this space with constant suggestions, whether they are positive or negative, which then in turn causes confusion because the voices in the head or the thoughts that are constant in the mind supersedes or are louder than that which we feel. And the feelings that we feel are deep down inside, and we have to quiet the mind enough to be able to hear, better said, feel these suggestions from our core. There's a big difference between the thoughts in our heads and what it is we feel. And from a spiritual perspective, to hear the voice of your essence, you have to quiet the mind. Quiet the mind enough to feel what it is we're feeling. Because our feelings is the gateway to the voice of our spirit. That was a mouthful. I'm going to try to make some distinction between what it is we think and what it is we feel. And to further clarify certain thoughts that a lot of people often have. Sometimes we have thoughts that are self-deprecating. Self-deprecating in the sense that it is attacking our character, attacking a sense of who we are, our self-concept, downgrading who we are, bad-mouthing who we are, saying really negative descriptions and adjectives of who we are. For example, sometimes people share with me that right before they go to bed, they hear a soft voice in their head. You're stupid. You're stupid. Look at you. Look what you have going on. You have nothing going on. Who do you think you are? You're just so stupid. You're lame. You're worthless. Right? Those are self-deprecating thoughts. Now let me put this in perspective for you. If we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and our true essence is that of a spiritual essence, why would you, the spiritual part of you, the spiritual entity of who you truly are, Why would that essence purposefully want to hurt you? That doesn't make any sense. Why would I willingly, in my most achieved state of self, or having an operating in my higher sense of self, why would I deliberately attack my well-being purposefully, to the point where I'm hurting myself, to the point where I'm making myself go into a depression, to a point where I am feeling worthless and not good enough? The two can't coexist. Operating in our highest sense of self, and then in turn giving ourselves thoughts of self-deprecation, telling ourselves negative things, negative thoughts to hurt ourselves, doesn't make sense. So what does that mean from a spiritual point of view? What does that mean? What it means is there are two energies at play. And the energies at play is one of dark and one of light. I myself, operating in my highest sense of self, would not purposely send these negative thoughts to myself to hurt myself. So obviously, there's a negative energy at play. Negative thoughts being sent our way, negative suggestions being sent our way, negative influences, negative people being sent our way to disrupt our understanding, to disrupt our knowledge, to disrupt our state of beingness. We can get into a conversation as to why that is so, but I don't want to get off the topic just yet. I want to stay with thoughts and feelings. And so these negative thoughts that one constantly has, is that from a negative source, from a negative entity. So from a spiritual perspective, understanding that we are operating of light, that we're beings of light, that in our most well-developed sense of self, our thoughts should be positive. Our thoughts should be benefiting us. Our thoughts should be bringing us to the next level. And anything beyond that, or anything short of that, is that of negativity. So, what is it that we do with these negative thoughts? Fully understanding, fully incorporating and having the perspective that we are spiritual beings first, having a physical experience. What do we do with those thoughts? How do we attack those thoughts? How do we handle those thoughts so that they are no longer influencing our state of peace? We've made the distinction that there are thoughts of light and that there are thoughts of dark. And so, when there are opponents, one has to win. In one of the series prior to this that I recorded, I talked about this life being like, or I equated this life being that of a basketball game, right? You always have an opponent. You always have a team, and there's a winning team and a losing team. But so you want to take this same, that same discussion and apply it to this when I'm speaking about thoughts of light and thoughts of dark. Knowing, understanding that you're a spiritual being, having a physical experience, you want to fight those negative thoughts. You want to attack those negative thoughts because the thoughts are trying to overtake your sense of self, rob your peace, rob the love and peace that you have within you. So with that perspective, you want to fight those negative thoughts because the fight oftentimes happens between these two ears. So when you are met with these kinds of thoughts, these negative thoughts, these deprecating thoughts, you want to talk back to these thoughts. Now, a lot of times I say that, and sometimes to my clients I say that, and they often say, well, I'm gonna look crazy, or that looks sound stupid, or whatever the case may be. That is what you have to do. You have to put those negative thoughts on notice, that you as an energy being are aware of this negative energy coming towards you, and you want to fight. You want to identify the thoughts. You want to let the thoughts know that you are aware that it is a dark thought, and you want to curse that dark thought. Now, when I say curse that dark thought, I really mean curse that dark thought. This is not a game. This is a battle for your light. Those of you who have struggled with depression, those of you who are struggling with those negative self-talk, those deprecating self-talks that you experience, know exactly what I'm talking about. And so if it is bad enough where you can't sleep, where you can't get out of the bed, where you can't function, you have to fight for your light. And that means every time you experience these negative thoughts, you want to spiritually put a flashlight on it, illuminate the dark thought, put it on notice, not illuminating to give it credit. You don't want to give it credit. You don't want to energize those negative thoughts. But what you do want to do is illuminate that thought and let it know that you know in your highest and in your well-developed, healthy sense of self, that you know that thought has come to obstruct your peace, that thought has come to disrupt your sanctuary, that thought has come to try to stop you from making that slam dunk, or from winning the goal, or from making the shot. And so fighting those dark thoughts is crucial to the point that when you are successful in fighting those thoughts day in and day out, which sometimes it may take days, it may take weeks, it may take months, it may even take a year, but the key factor is your desperation, your consistency, being constant in being able to fight these negative thoughts. Now, I'm not speaking theoretically here. I'm speaking from experience. I'm speaking from my own journey. I'm speaking from a point where a standpoint that where I've actually had to go through this process to regain my sense of self, to regain a sense of understanding myself and who I am. And one of the key skills needed to fight this and to not just, when I say fight this, to regain your sense of self and understanding, to regain peace. In order for us to successfully do that, we need to fight the spiritual fight. Because if again we're looking at this life, right, as a game, there's always going to be dark and light, right? Which side are we on? Which side are we standing on? And if you're standing on the side of light, know that there'll always be an opponent. Know that there'll always be a challenge. Know that this fight is designed for there to be a challenge, for us to know the strength, the power, the light within us to regain our light, to regain our consciousness, to regain our peace, to love self. So we have to put that peace in perspective. Light versus dark, positive thoughts and feelings versus negative thoughts. And I wanted to clearly make that distinction for you today. There is so much more that I can speak on this topic, but in this period of time, I'm not able to cover anything else. However, if you want to hear more about this journey between light and dark, or if you want to hear more about how to fight those dark thoughts, press the button below, subscribe, send me a comment or a question, and I'd love to expand more on this topic. Thank you again for listening to Dr. TSA Series, a spiritual discussion. Namaste to you. Love always.